Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is the radio guy, Dr. Mike Prince, and as always, we take pride and honor in giving you inside information for HBCU sports, in particular the SWAC and the MEAC, and today is no exception to the rule. We have joined on the phone line with the head of officiating for the Southwestern Athletic Conference, that is none other than Mr. Harold Mitchell. How you doing, sir, and welcome to the show.
Hey, fine. I'm doing fine. Thanks for having me on.
Yes, sir. Well, as always, we try to keep our listeners informed as well as fans on any particular rule changes that will come up. And I know with the NCAA, they're always handing something new to tweak and get things and get the game a little bit safer and moving a little bit faster in this 21st century. And was just wanting to touch in and see what you had new for us for this 2017 season.
Well, the first thing just would like to clarify, and I'm sure your listeners will want to know this, rule changes only occur every other year. In other words, the only rule changes that occur on that off year are rule changes related to safety. And this year, 2017, is a year where normal rule changes don't occur, except for ones involving safety. So because of that, big rule changes probably will not occur until next year. But this year we have three rule changes, one of which will not be enforced until 2018. So that is the philosophy behind rule changes.
Very good, and always good to have the proper information to move us forward. Now, with that being said, the three safety rules that have been incorporated would be the following.
Yeah, the first rule change this year that will not become effective until 2018 is knee pads will be required to cover the knee. About 3 years ago, we took out the rule that required players to have knee pads covering their knees because scientific information indicated that it didn't impact injuries or not. Since that time, players have kind of abused the rule. In some cases, they won't even have anything near their knees, and you've seen some players in biker shorts almost and not in really football gear. So starting in 2018, players will have to not only have knee pads, but these knee pads must cover the knees. So you won't see these student athletes with their pants where the knees are almost up to their thigh. So that's one of the changes for 2018.
That seemed like that might cause a bit of a fashion flare. Some of these guys, they like to wear their pants and like you say, have their knees showing, almost as you say, in biker shorts.
Right, and you laugh about it, but in actuality, one of the reasons they could not enforce it this year is because teams had already ordered the pants and the uniforms. And the uniforms, because they didn't have to necessarily be the proper length, many schools would just order uniforms and the players would come in and grab the shortest ones because they didn't want anything on their knees. So that did have a bearing, and the fact that the equipment manufacturers no longer were trying to produce the pants that would cover the knees. So it's kind of ironic that it occurred, but that was one of the reasons that it was delayed to 2018. The second rule change involves a player leaping or hurdling in an attempt to block an extra point or a field goal. And the rule states this year that in order for it states that no defensive player who runs forward from beyond the neutral zone, which is the length of the ball, may leap or hurdle in an obvious attempt to block a field goal or a try. It is a foul whether they touch anyone or not. So in the situation last year that was on ESPN all the time, they had the situation where the student athlete leaped clearly over both the offense and defensive line to block a punt. This year, if they take a running start, they will be considered a personal foul. If they're lined up within 1 yard of the line of scrimmage and somehow leap up and block it, then that's fine. So that's the second rule. The third rule involves the area that a person can grab when they do what they call a horse collar tackle. That tackle where a defensive player will grab the offensive player usually at the back of the neck of his shoulder pads and pulls him straight down to the ground. What they've done this year, they've increased the area to which you can grab it where it will be a foul. Last year it had to be basically up in the neck area, the shoulder pad area. Now we're taking it down a little to what they call the nameplate area. So if you grab a player anywhere near where their name would normally be on their jerseys and you pull them down directly to the ground, that will be a foul. So those are the three major rule changes that have occurred this year.
Wow.
Go ahead.
I'm trying to imagine the last one would probably be the one that you probably had the most kickback on, grabbing a player by the name plate on his shirt, which is normally considered the back, but that's going to be considered a horse collar now.
Well, yeah, but it's the tackle that occurs. In other words, when you pull me down directly from the back, pull me directly to the ground, that's really caused a lot of knee injuries. Now, if you grab me back there and just tackle me, that's not a foul. The action that occurs when you just pull me directly down from behind, if you picture a quarterback running or any runner and the tackler just grabs him by his shirt collar and just snatches him back to the ground, that buckles his legs and knees. If I grab you and I just ride you for 2 or 3 yards and then you end up on the ground, that's not a horse collar tackle. So it's the type of tackle that occurs.
Got you. Okay. Well, that one I can see a lot of people are going to call a judgment call, but I'm pretty sure that you got you guys in training and what they're going to be able to make the precise and the right call, because when it's happening in the heat of the moment, you don't have time to just say, is it or is it not? You got to make that call, and that's the purpose of these trainings and keeping people informed. I really, really appreciate you taking time out to share with our listeners on these rule changes. Are there any other things that we might want to look back at? I know they're talking about celebrations and this, that, and the other being loosened on the professional level. Is that going to be coming down the pipeline on the collegiate level?
Anything that happens in the NFL eventually comes down to the college level. So the answer is probably so. However, as of now, our student-athletes don't perform as much as the NFL. So we think we pretty much got a handle on it. Now, there are a couple of editorial changes that I think your listeners might want to know about. The length of halftime now will be 20 minutes. Now, the difference is it's always been 20 minutes, but particularly in some of our games, we've had bands that'll go over their allotted time. We've had times where the halftime clock didn't start right away. This year, the NCAA has mandated that the clock starts for the 20-minute halftime as soon as the officials have determined there's no penalties involved in the last play of the second quarter and there's no replay involved. What will happen as soon as the half starts, as soon as the second quarter ends, the referee will signal the clock operator to start the 20-second clock. When there's 3 minutes left in the half, we expect the teams to be on the field. With 1:30 to go, all participants in the halftime program, bands, homecoming courts, we expect to be off the field. When the clock gets down to 0:00, the the officials are supposed to have the teams lined up and ready to kick off. If this is not so, if for some reason the teams are not ready to play because the bands didn't get off the field, the halftime program didn't end, then the home team will be penalized 10 yards for delay of game. And that will be strictly enforced. The only games that this does not occur in is postseason games and bowl games. Now, the SWAC has always allowed during homecoming for our institutions to have a 5-minute extension on halftime. The SWAC has not made a decision at this time whether that will be requested as an exception through the NCAA. So we don't know for sure. But for all other games, 20-minute halftimes, the bands will have to be ready to get on the field, do their performance, and get off within that time frame.
Wow.
Yes. That's what we said also.
I'm laughing at that one. I'm just trying to imagine these bands. It takes them 15 minutes sometimes just to get warmed up. And
we're making a special effort within the conference office to alert our institutions so that the bands can understand their responsibility. And the home team management, it's going to be interesting because what if the visiting band is the one that violates the time element? The home team is still going to be the one that is penalized.
Well, I was just going to say, in most cases, the visiting band would perform first. So if they go over the allotted time, then that means the home team is going to have to eventually shorten their program. And what I can see potentially being a problem, if it continues to be a problem, that they just eliminate inviting visitor bands.
Well, that could happen. That could happen.
Wow.
But the basis for this rule is the length of games from a TV perspective are increasing. They're now running 3 hours and 20 minutes, 3 hours and 30 minutes, and part of the reason is it takes sometimes 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes to get the halftime program started. So this is a NCAA rule in conjunction with TV, and I believe probably because of the number of overtime games, you factor that in with games being extended, and TV games are running into each other. And we all know that TV kind of dictates the timing factor in regards to collegiate football.
Yes, sir. No doubt about it. Well, it's amazing. It's just amazing.
Another editorial change is last year we made it an unsportsmanlike foul when a coach acted up. And the significance of that was if you get 2 unsportsmanlike fouls in one game, the coach or player is ejected from the game. And last year was the first year that the NCAA gave officials the ability to eject a football coach. What people didn't realize, in the past, football coaches could not be ejected by an official. Unlike other sports where in basketball 2 technicals get you tossed out. Well, now 2 unsportsmanlike fouls on a football coach will get the football coach ejected. Now, this year, as an editorial change, coaches may not leave the coaching box to protest the officiating. In other words, coaches have their area on the sideline. We allow them a little leniency to come out and communicate with their players, particularly their quarterback. We allow the defensive coordinators to come out and communicate with the defensive players. And when I say come out, a couple of 2 or 3 steps onto the field. And we just ask them after they've communicated with their student athletes that they go back into the coaching box, which is approximately 6 feet from the the sideline. Some coaches have used that leniency when they're out on the field to protest to an official about a call. This year, if a coach is on the field protesting a call, officials are instructed to give them an unsportsmanlike foul right then. And there's not supposed to be any leeway. And part of this occurred because of, if you saw the playoffs, the NCAA playoffs last year, you saw the coach at Clemson acting up, you saw the coach at Florida State acting up, you saw Lou Saban acting up a little bit. And so the NCAA is cracking down on that, and the SWAC officials have been instructed that we will adhere to the rule, so that if we have coaches that come out and they're out of their box and they're protesting the call on the field, they will be given a flag. Now, this also can come up, coaches are allowed to come out onto the field to signal a timeout. For example, if a play ends somewhere down near the goal line, and the coach, because the officials are working down a long way away from the coaches, we allow them to run down the field and signal a timeout.
Okay.
That will still be legal. However, if the coach at that time uses the fact that he's down there to protest maybe the spot of the ball or a foul that he didn't think get called, he will get a flag for unsportsmanlike conduct at that time. And the significance of that is, once you get that first unsportsmanlike, usually that second one, it's not like you say, I'm not going to do it again. You get excited at the end of the game and do something that results in a foul, you will be ejected from the game.
Wow.
So that's going to be very interesting to see how coaches will react. And part of what I'm doing at this time is, as I'm visiting the coaches, I'm basically, talking to them about that type of conduct.
It's going to be some mild-mannered coaches and teammates on these sidelines from the NCAA standards, which is a good thing. You don't want to ever be bigger than the game itself, and it helps bring a little control back where you guys can do your job. And I've always said this, if a team or a fan wants to complain that it was a bad call that went this way or the other against them or for them, then they really undervaluing what that team did or did not do, because it's all about opportunities. And if you're highlighting on a particular play, then you really didn't have a chance to begin with.
Right. And one of the things that the coach's conduct now is, if you think about the fact that in most cases we have instant replay, those questionable calls that a coach would normally get upset about, if he just holds it for a minute, the replay people will look at it and they will determine if the call was correct or not. So coaches don't have to worry about a fumble being missed because the official on the field physically didn't see it. And this year, I'm not sure if you're aware of this, Mike, but the SWAC has, it looks like 7 of our teams will use instant replay all season this year.
Okay, are you at privilege to mention which 7 teams those are?
Well, the ones that have stepped forward and said are, and let me not forget anybody, Alabama State, Jackson State, Alcorn, Grambling, Southern, Texas Southern, and Prairie View.
Okay.
And we're in the process of making sure they've got all the cameras and equipment, but those schools have stepped forward, and they're going to use it. Now, in the SWAC in 2018, the presidents and chancellors have indicated that all of our schools will be required to have instant replay in 2018.
Absolutely, that is definitely moving in the right direction. We spoke with Commissioner Sharp at the SWAC Media Day, and he was saying that part of it is going to help those schools who would need the help to be in position for everyone to be on the same page.
Yes, and that's the goal of the conference, and we're working hand in hand with the conference office and the schools to make sure this happens.
Well, it sounds like things are heading in the right direction. Sir, I want to thank you so much for taking the time out to educate us and help us enjoy a game that we all have grown to love, and that is, and I have to say it this way, American football on the college level, because we know that the original football is soccer, and all depending on who you're talking to, they misunderstand what we're talking about. But Mr. Harold Mitchell, the leading official, I should say, for the SWAC conference, and we really appreciate you, sir. Anything you want to share with us as we close this segment out?
Well, I think that we're going to have an outstanding and very competitive season this year, and I think replay is going to help the game of football in the SWAC. It's going to take all the doubts out, and we're looking forward to it, and I think our schools have been very, very positive in working with the conference office and the officials to make it come out right. We'll probably have some glitches, but for the most part, I think our fans will be very, very supportive of this and knowing that obvious mistakes will be corrected.
Well, with that being said, sir, we thank you very, very much. As always, we appreciate the SWAC and the MEAC, for that matter, and their availability to help us keep our listeners informed. I am the radio guy. This has been Mr. Harold Mitchell, head official of the Southwestern Athletic Conference. This is going to do it for us right now, but until the next time, you guys be blessed. We'll see you.
Thank you very much. Bye.
On the other side. Thank you, sir.